An election is often viewed through the prism of a scoreboard, seats, votes, percentages, numbers that appear clear, precise, and definitive. In the 2021 Assembly elections, turnout reached 82.42%. In the 2024 Lok Sabha polls, participation remained high at over 81%. And in Dhubri, it rose even further, touching 92.08%, one of the highest in the country. From a distance, this looks like engagement, like participation, like a system working as expected. But on the ground, the experience of an election feels very different. Because in Assam, voting is not just a number recorded, it is a decision shaped by everyday life. It is not only about choosing between parties, it is about choosing what matters most. Across the state, different narratives compete for attention. The Bharatiya Janata Party focuses on infrastructure and large-scale development. Recent approvals include 10 road projects and 16 bridges, valued at over 740 crore rupees. Alongside this is a long-term vision, including the proposed underwater road and rail tunnel beneath the Brahmaputra. At the same time, candidate selection reveals another pattern. Several sitting leaders have been replaced. New faces have been introduced. In some cases, even recent entrants. This raises a quieter question. What determines a candidate today? Experience, loyalty, or the ability to win? For some long-time workers, this shift feels significant. Years of association do not always guarantee continuity. And in some places, this has led to visible reactions, disagreement, dissatisfaction, even independent contests. This reveals something deeper. Elections are not only contests between parties, they are also moments of change within them. The Indian National Congress directs attention toward welfare and economic support. It highlights the rise in unemployment, which reached 3.9% in early 2026, and the reality of over 21 lakh registered job seekers. At the same time, it faces internal challenges, leaders leaving, new alignments forming, and questions around stability, because perception can be as important as reality. When exits become frequent, it creates uncertainty, not just about ideology, but about direction. There is also a visible shift in how elections are framed. In some cases, the contest moves from parties to individuals. Leadership becomes central, not only in governance, but in how voters interpret the election itself. The Assam Gana Parishad brings a regional perspective, focused on identity, language, and long-standing local concerns. And then there are others, smaller parties, independent candidates, local coalitions, each trying to connect with a different part of Assam's reality. Because Assam is not one story, it is many. In several districts, the conversation begins with water. Floods are not occasional events. They are recurring disruptions. In 2024 alone, flooding caused 2.5 million internal displacements. Nearly 40% of the state's territory was affected. For many families, recovery is not measured in months, but in years, sometimes across generations. In other regions, the focus shifts to the future. The state's economy shows a projected growth of 13%. But for many young people, opportunity does not grow at the same pace. There is a gap between education and employment, between aspiration and availability. Migration becomes a necessity, not always a choice. Land and identity remain constant undercurrents. Questions of documentation and belonging continue to shape conversations, not just as policy debates, but as deeply personal concerns. Infrastructure has visibly changed in urban centers. New roads, bridges, improved connectivity, travel times have reduced, movement has become easier. But beyond these hubs, the experience is different. In remote areas, access to basic services still depends on distance, sometimes on how far one is from a main road. Expectations continue to evolve. Better flood management, stable local employment, healthcare that reaches the last mile, and public services that do not depend on geography. Campaigns are everywhere. Posters, rallies, speeches, promises repeated across districts. But the weight of a campaign is not in what is said, it is in what is heard. Because people do not vote only for ideas. They vote for what feels relevant, what feels urgent, what feels personal. In some constituencies, something else is beginning to shift. Younger candidates are entering the field, often outside traditional party structures, relying on local recognition and direct engagement. For some voters, this introduces uncertainty, but also curiosity, a sense that representation may begin to change. Sometimes the most important contests are not the loudest ones. When a citizen casts a vote, they are choosing more than a leader. They are choosing a priority. For many, a vote is not an expression of ideology. It is a reflection of experience. What has improved? What has stalled? What remains uncertain? The system will eventually count the numbers. Seats will be won. Margins will be analyzed. Results will be declared. But beneath those numbers lies something deeper, a reflection of how people are feeling across villages, across towns, across Assam. Because elections are more than contests for power. They are signals of what matters most at this moment. And perhaps the real question is not just who wins, but what the vote reveals about priorities, about expectations, about the lived reality of millions. This is Grassroots' lens, not just the results, but what lies beneath them.